Hi guys, I hope you guys are doing well. My name is Noni Matikelo and welcome to my Noni M podcast. So today we are talking about something that could become one of the most closely watched chapters in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. Mtobisi Prince Mngube is in the witness box, who is accused number 3, who has finally had the opportunity to answer the allegations against him directly. And what makes this testimony so important is that Mngube is not simply saying I did not kill Senzo Meyiwa. His evidence is challenging much more than that. He is challenging the identification evidence, he is challenging the investigation, he's challenging the evidence of Brigadier Bongani Kininda, and perhaps most importantly, he is asking the court to look again at how the state connected him to the murder. So today we are breaking down 7 bombshells from Nube's testimony that could potentially create serious problems for the state case. But remember, these are allegations and defense arguments presented in court. They are not findings of guilt or innocence. Let's get into it. Right? Number 1. Bombshell number 1. He says he was not there. Let's start with the biggest issue of it all, which is identity. Mnube's fundamental position is that he was not the person who entered the Foslorus house and participated in the events that resulted in Senzo Meyiwa's death. That sounds very simple, right? But legally, it is very crucial because you better prove what you are saying. It's serious because the state doesn't only have to prove that someone murdered Senzo. The state has to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Mngube was one of the people who entered the house, and that take us directly into the identification evidence. Because if witnesses described the intruder with certain physical characteristics, the critical question becomes how reliable is that identification, and more specifically, what evidence connects that description to Mngube specifically currently as we see him. That is when Mnube's testimony could become extremely important because he's breaking down everything. Bombshell number 2, the dreadlock question. When it comes to the dreadlock question, it becomes very tricky for the state. This is one of the most fascinating parts of the case. The description of an intruder with dreadlocks is featured prominently in the evidence, but here is the question: does having dreadlock identify a person? And also, when the people that were inside the house were very specific, short dreadlocks, and you as the state prosecutor and an IO, you bring dreadlocks that are very long, pictures of a person with long dreadlocks that were plaited, and you want to tell us, or you want the court and ask people that are watching the case to believe that the people that saw that person would have never said, actually the person had dreadlocks that were plaited. Really? And also the issue of clothing. Mngube says, I was wearing all khaki and we saw the pictures. He was indeed wearing all khaki. But now, the people inside the house talk about a jacket that was khaki, but not everything. What do you mean? When you saw someone who was wearing khaki, you can't even remember that everything he was wearing was khaki? And he also speak about an earring. They did not mention it. And when you look at the pictures, the earring is showing because the dreadlocks were plaited. So do you see now that something is very off here when it comes to the description of the people that inside the house and the pictures of Mngube? Something is not linking right fine very well there. Okay. So what exactly did the witness see? Did they see Mngube, or did they see someone else? In his defense, he keeps saying, yes, they're describing someone, the person that they saw, not him. That's what he says. And these descriptions are consistent with the person that they saw because I am very light skinned. They were looking for someone who is dark skinned. Now, if the suspect had dreadlocks, the suspect was it Mngube? Because Mngube had long ones. That gap is precisely where the defense is attacking right now. Bombshell number 3, Mngube versus Kininda. Now things get seriously interesting when it comes to this. Mngube has directly challenged the credibility of Brigadier Bongani Kininda. And remember who Brigadier Kininda is? Do you remember? He wasn't simply an ordinary witness who happened to be passing through this case. He was a key investigating officer involved in constructing the state case. So when Mngube challenges Guininda's credibility. He is effectively asking the court, can we trust the investigation that led to these allegations against me? That is a much bigger question than do you believe Mncube? Because if the defense can establish serious problems in the investigation, it potentially creates doubt about the conclusions drawn from investigation. Okay? But let's be honest, Mncube calling someone dishonest doesn't make that person dishonest. The judge has to assess the evidence, and this is where cross examination and corroborating evidence becomes crucial. Does the state have corroborating evidence? Bombshell number 4, the questions around who was called and who wasn't. Mncube has also raised questions about witnesses who were not called by the state, including Kelly Khumalo. Now, that is extremely sensitive issue, right? Kelly Khumalo has featured prominently in public discussions surrounding the case, but she has not yet been charged in the present trial. Therefore, we must not jump from why wasn't she called to, therefore she knows who killed Senzo Meyiwa. That conclusion has not yet been established merely because Mncube raises the question, but from a defense perspective, the question can still be strategically important. The defense can ask, are there potentially important witnesses whose evidence could have helped clarify disputed events? And if Kelly Khumalo was fingered as someone who hired the so-called five accused, then why is she not part of the accused? That's one of the crucial questions that Mncube has asked. Ultimately, however, the court decides the case based on evidence properly before it. Now, Kelly Khumalo is not before it, and that's one of the crucial issues. Now, bombshell number 5, the defense witness problem. Now, let's turn the spotlight back onto Mncube, because this is where the state may have an opportunity about their evidence. Some evidence involving defense witnesses, about Kanselani, about consistent, including issues concerning photographs where it was allegedly taken. It is very important. Because Mncube is not operating in isolation. His testimony must be compared against the testimony of other witnesses. If his own version conflict evidence presented by people called by his defense, the state can use those contradictions to attack his credibility. But we have not have any of that. There's no contradictions yet. So we are yet to see how is the state going to deal with this. Number 6, the investigation itself is on trial now. This is for me, it is one of the biggest. This one for me is one of the biggest issues, because biggest themes emerging from Mncube's testimony. Think about what is happening. The state says Mncube is connected to the crime. Mncube defense says, look at how the connection was established. He challenges everything. That is the battlefield right now. Now he is challenging where witnesses properly investigated, statements properly obtained, inconsistencies adequately addressed, the alternative possibility properly investigated, was the evidence interpreted correctly, did investigators jump from suspicion to conclusion? Those are the questions the judge needs to go through without emotions. They require evidence. That's exactly why Mncube's testimony matters. Last one, the bombshell, the million rand question: where is the independent corroboration? And now we get to the heart of the matter. Forget the personalities, forget the courtroom drama, forget the headlines. The ultimate question is, what independent evidence places Mncube at the crime scene? And on the other side, what independent evidence supports Mncube's claim that he was not there? He does have that, his cell phone. It says he was in central Johannesburg, but the state is saying that Mncube was at Khumalo House. Now, here's my take. Mncube's testimony is significant because he is finally able to tell the court in his own evidence why he says the state's allegations against him are wrong. But there is another side to it. The witness box is a dangerous place for an accused. But once you testify, your version can be tested. Every date, every name, every photograph, every relationship, every alleged movement, every contradiction, everything becomes available for cross examination. But what's so nice about it is that his is going according to what he says. Now, the bigger question is that brings us back to one call haunted this trial for years. Who killed Senzo Meyiwa? Specifically for Mncube, the legal question is: has the state proved beyond reasonable doubt that Mtobisi Prince Mncube was the one of the perpetrators? And we are yet to hear their arguments, because from what we could hear, Mncube has nothing to do with the crime. What are your thoughts when it comes to this? I'll see you on our next video. Bye bye.